I am Marwan Cameron, and this is the Conduit. All right, y'all, welcome back. I am your host. You know what day it is. 2x2 Studies and the Conduit getting together to have those conversations. So let's jump right on into it. How you doing today, Rev?
Hey, how's it going, my brother?
Oh, man, blessed and highly favored.
Amen.
And it's Tuesday, so you already know I'm feeling good.
Amen. We're a day behind on our mashup, but nevertheless, God is good. He got us here to today, and so today we're gonna talk about. Well, we like to push the limits. I think the people enjoy the fact that we push the limits. We do not behave, as I like to say, and to those societal norms. And so we're gonna talk about Black Lives Matter.
Up with the topic.
And so I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. I want you to go ahead and I know you have a particular viewpoint as far as Black Lives Matter go, and I would like you to kind of break that down because there's two different particular viewpoints that you stress. One, I think we're in line with, and the other one, I just really don't have a position, right? So can you break those down for us?
All right. So, for some historical context of Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter started out as a phrase, right? That we were chanting in the streets during our protest. And what it was designed to express was, look, Black lives do matter, right? And that you have to acknowledge that. And what happened was an organization was created, and its foundation was based on that phrase, right? So now we are the Black Lives Matter organization. Now, the issue was, when it was first created, it sounded good, right? Black Lives Matter. We know that. We know the pushback against All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter or, all the garbage we get in that with folks being disingenuous and, pretty much overtly racist. But, that's a whole nother thing. But the origins of the organization, to me, were far more insidious. And yes, I'm using the word insidious than, people realized, right? And even today realize. And so, to give you some historical context, right? And I was one that very early on was not a supporter of Black Lives Matter. So when it first kind of came out, I was, right? Because I didn't know, the background and what was behind the formulation of it. But if in most of the websites have been redacted now to no longer include this, but this was created by the LGBT community, Black females. And what they were doing was dismantling the patriarchy, right? And, as a heterosexual Black male in America that is watching, right, Black Lives Matter ascend because particularly heterosexual Black males are being gunned down in the street, government sanctioned murder, right? For another group, a subgroup, to create an organization and then say, we want to dismantle the very people that are being murdered is offensive, right? Now, furthermore, as time goes on, and if you've been watching recently in the media, they've raised $90 million, to which none of that money has gone to many of those that have been slain across the country. And the fathers of, some of the slain victims have spoken out and said, hey, Black Lives Matter came into our town. They raised a bunch of money. They took the money out of the town, and then they didn't do anything to help us or to help our cause, right?
Right.
Then you find out that some of the leaders of Black Lives Matter are buying multiple luxury homes and having, resorts and all this other stuff, right? And it's ridiculous. So again, what you have, and I did a podcast last night that went in on meritorious manumissions, right? Have you heard of that phrase?
Meritorious manumissions? No.
So meritorious manumissions quickly was an act that was created in the 1700s. And what it was designed to do is a slave could get their freedom legally if they saved a white slave owner's life. If they, it's kind of ringing a bell now.
Yeah.
If they snitched on someone that was trying to, leave or do an uprising, or they invented something that really made it easier for the slave owner, right?
Yeah.
So we see that today with our politicians and folks in different organizations where they want those butter biscuits, those meritorious manumissions, and they're going to go along to get along so that they can keep what they have or ascend and try to grab what it is that they want to the detriment of their own people. And that to me is what Black Lives Matter is, as an organization where it is dismantling, right, the heterosexual Black male. And so we're being victimized all over again. And that's what you see, right? So
right.
Grants and all these other things for Black women and everything else. But when it comes to the Black male, our illiteracy rates, our graduation rates, prostate cancer, all these things, we could just go homelessness, we're impacted more, right? Suicide, police abuse, domestic violence, proxy violence, all these things, rape, because we're talking about prison, right? So again, for those of us that aren't killed in the street, well, we're going to jail, right? And we're going to jail for a long time. You're resisting arrest. Do you know what time you're getting for resisting arrest on top of the fact of why you got pulled over, right?
Yeah, so that's like a felony charge, right? Resisting arrest.
Yeah, I believe that it is.
Yeah. And in a lot of places, I can't say everywhere, but a lot of states, resisting arrest will land you with a felony charge, which automatically, you're now a second-class citizen, which is another thing I think we're going to talk about one of these days, is the second-class citizens that this country is constantly creating. So with the Black Lives Matter organization, right? And I know, and that's one of the things I really love about you. You know what I'm saying? You're unapologetically, a strong heterosexual male. And it's like, hey, I'm not going to be ashamed about, being heterosexual. And I think nowadays, there's a lot of stigma where it's like, oh, you can't say you're heterosexual. It's okay to say like I'm LGBTQ or anything else, but like if you get to like, it's pretty much like being Black, now. Like I can't be proud of being Black, you know what I'm saying? I can be proud of being gay, but I can't be proud of being, heterosexual. I can be proud of being white, but I can't be proud of being Black, So I don't think it's that simple for you, because I'm listening to what you were saying. But is that one of the problems with the foundation, Black Lives Matter, is the fact that it was started by the LGBT community? Or is it just the exploitation of within their, exploiting, our own community for their personal gains?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the second, right? So There's nothing wrong with any group creating something to support another demographic, right? Obviously, people should be represented, right? If you create Black Lives Matter and your white folks, probably be a good idea for you to have Black people at the table, right? Let's do like a general fundraiser. I want to fundraise at my Rotary Club, and then we're going to donate that money. Okay, well, you don't really need Black folks in on that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're going to create something and leverage that, then it should be in the spirit that, hey, this isn't going to be a money grab for us. Well, hey, we made $90 million, and now, we've got administrative cost, and people have to manage the money that's coming in. And now you're looking up and you're seeing all these white folks or LGBT community that are not Black males, which, this is where, George Floyd's death was what, really sprung this up, right? Then you don't see these people represented and being supported in that way. So
hold on. So I was under the assumption that this Black Lives Matter, really started around Trayvon Martin's death.
Yeah, and that was it is.
Oh, okay.
Than George Floyd, right? It just
Okay.
blown up rape.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no longer grassroots, right? Trayvon Martin, more grassroots, now mainstream, and this is where it is.
Yeah. But I think the point you're making is that the black male is the heavy burden bearer of systemic racism. Well, I won't say systemic, is the heavy burden bearer when it comes to violent attacks on our community. You know, we don't see as many violent attacks perpetrated on the black female as we do the black male. We're the ones more oftenly beaten or killed than the female, right?
Yeah, not only that, right? And you're talking about, let's do incarceration, right? Millions versus 100,000 or whatever the numbers are. That even when you're talking about, if you're comparing the black and brown community, I mean, they just executed a black man where they found evidence that he was innocent, right? Well, he's dead now. So, and you hear every year how many people are being released out of prison after 30, 40 years because of evidence, right? And they're gone. So you give them $1 million, whatever, you've destroyed their life for 30 or 40 years. And then they come out and what are they going to say? Man, I'm just so happy to be free. I'm just going to live my life and this and that. What are they going to do? So, we're incarcerated, we're abused. Black men are raped more in this country than any other demographic, but we haven't looked at rape in this country as being men could be raped. Only women can be raped. But we see, teachers raping their junior high and elementary school and high school, kids. We see, folks, black men going to prison for stupid crimes, marijuana, whatever else, getting longer sentences, being hit with felonies, being sexually assaulted in jail and coming out and not having any resources, right? And being damaged and harmed. And we actually laugh at it, right? We make a joke about it. I hope you go to prison and get raped, right? And that's okay to say about a black man and the black man's body, right? But it's not okay in any other situation. So the violence that are visited on the black man is exponentially worse than any other group, right? And so to create an organization and then omit the same people that you have flourished for is and like I said, it's offensive. The words that I want to use are much stronger, but I don't have the vocabulary right now.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saving these ears. So, all right, we're going to talk about, guys, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. And as we go through this particular episode, when Marwan or myself say Black Lives Matter, we are not referring to the organization. We're speaking in literal terms of Black Lives Matter, right? Is that fair to say?
Fair to say.
Okay, so we just want to kind of make that distinction so that there's no confusion as we go throughout. Thank you, Sri. Some of the things that Marwan was just saying as far as the organization is kind of new to me. I had like kind of baseline, understanding of the organization. I had never myself taken a stance one way or the other. Like I said, the verbiage I totally agree with. Black lives do matter. I understand the verbiage on that level that often gets criticized with the return verbiage of all lives matter. Yes, I agree with that as well, but that's not what we're talking about. And we're not going to get into that whole debacle right now. One of the things you said, very interesting, and I'm going to look for this story because I read it and I found it appalling. I think my brother actually sent it to me, but there was a man that spent, I think, 40-something years in prison. And because of the way that particular state law was set up, he could only be recompensed, I think, for like 5 years. He ended up getting like $76,000 or something like that. Was that you to share that with me?
Oh, it wasn't, but I'm shaking my head because there's stories like this multiple times per year.
Okay, yeah, I know somebody shared that with me, but yeah, I was just like blown away. Like you literally took in this man's whole life and you give him $76,000. That's where's that going to get him? Nowhere. But I digress. Anyway, so we have a couple of stories that have been highlighted this during the last week or two, right? Around pretty much Black Lives Matter, and again, we're not talking to organization people. So let's begin. Let me see here. I'll pull this. I got a couple of stories open here. Let's start here, and we're going to kind of work our way up. So I want to share my screen with you, if possible. Let me kind of get all of these open. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen so we can kind of get this recorded as well. But yes, I am. Let's see. Okay. All right. So this story here out of Oklahoma. I gotta hit share. Okay. So this story here out of Oklahoma. And it says here's the headline. It says 2 Oklahoma boys removed from elementary school classrooms over Black Lives Matter shirts banned when the George Floyd case blew up. Now, as we was talking last night, I was telling you that I had been seeing an increase of stories, and I still have not figured out where I saved them to, but I will just generally reference them. So this story, I've noticed an increase since the Derek Chauvin verdict has come down, that school administrations, particularly teachers, have been lashing out on children over the Chauvin case. And I just see this as an extension to what I've seen. I've seen, arts history teacher, fuss at a student and demanded, his Black students write letters to defend, the position of George Floyd, and, just all kinds of heinous things. So this particular one, we have 2 children, brothers, Bentley and Rodney Herbert, 8 and 5 years old. Says they were removed from separate classes in the school, and the superintendent told them that political attire would not be allowed at the school. They were forced to turn the shirts inside out. Eventually, they were trying to just kind of skim through this. That was the first incident, which was on April 30th, when Bentley wore his Black Lives Matter shirt to his 3rd grade class. Okay. Yeah. And the principal made him turn the shirt inside out, telling him he wasn't allowed to wear it again. Then Jordan Herbert went to the school, that's the mom, to find out how her son's shirt violated district dress code. And I'm gonna skip down a little bit, but eventually they were kicked out of school. I'm not gonna read this whole story. It's from MSN. You guys can see it. You can find it online. But let's talk about this. Why are 8 and a 5-year-old? Obviously, the parents are dressing them. Especially at 5 years old. They're not buying their own clothes. The parents are buying these clothes, right? So why is it that these adults feel like they have to lash out at our children, because, who are they influencing? Are they shirts gonna influence their teacher to vote a certain way? Because they're saying political attire, right? And that's usually about, swaying a vote or, influencing a person's way of thinking, right? So at 8 and 5 years old, who are they going to be around in school to influence their voting behaviors, their voting patterns? I'm going to turn this over to you and get your, because you speak eloquently. I really love that. So,
well, you ain't gonna love what I gotta say about this.
Hey, well, let me hear what you gotta say, bro.
All right, so I'll pose it first with the question, right?
Okay.
So if this were two white kids that were wearing "Make America Great Again" hats, would we feel some kind of way about it, or would it just be okay? Right? Would it be for the undertones of what "Make America Great" can represent, would that be offensive to Black Americans, right? Or even to the BIPOC community? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so first,
I love your smile, by the way.
You like say that again?
I said I love your smile right now.
Oh, okay. I'm finna go there. So first, this particular incident right here, what we see happening is a response to what the school did, right? So the community is upset because of what the school did. We have seen white children wear the mega gear to school and weren't kicked out, told they couldn't wear it. We had the one incident that really blew up where the white kids were taunting the Native American man who was beating the drum and chanting, and they're just standing in his face, grinning and trying to provoke him or whatever else, and they're wearing the MAGA gear at a school sanctioned event. They're on a field trip or whatever you want to call it or whatever, so they've been allowed to wear their political gear with no backlash. We see them wearing the coded gear, what is it, 1913, stuff like that, and so forth. And they've been doing this for years. So you wear a shirt that says BLM or actually says the words Black Lives Matter. How does that become a problem? The difference is nominal, if any, but on the same level, the difference is it's a ravine. It's a huge difference. So I don't think it's so much about the community's response. It's what because the community's response is to the school, is to what the school did, what the district did. And I think you would see the same response from the white community if their children would have got sent home for wearing the MAGA gear. The parents would have been outraged and, oh, you're discriminating and da-da-da-da this. We'd have seen the same response, from their community as well. So then why is it, not okay for these children, again, who obviously aren't buying their own clothes?
Well, so if I may, let me go deep on this one.
Okay.
So a few things, right? And I love the fact that you said that the kids aren't wearing their own clothes, right?
Buying their own clothes, yeah.
Buying their own clothes. So as an educator, I don't want this in my classroom, right? This is a distraction. It's a disruption. You have people that are going to be socialized and raised how they're going to be raised, right? So in this particular household, they're raised that Black Lives Matter, right? So they're also probably raised that MAGA is racist inherently and whatnot. Well, the people in the MAGA household are probably socialized that, well, BLM is offensive, right? And it's against you because it's saying Black Lives Matter, your life doesn't matter. Disingenuous, not what it means, but again, that's what it is. So when either side puts that into a classroom element, you're going to have a disruption of learning. And so from an educator perspective, no, I don't think there's a place for this in the classroom, right? Now, to go further, as far as the Black community, we have this tit for tat mentality, right? Where it's like, well, the MAGA folks can wear it and they get away with it, so we should be able to wear it. And so we get caught up into fights that are symbolic, that do nothing to actually move us toward equality and equity and everything else, right? So now you've got parents, and I don't know these parents, so I don't want to be, make assumptions, right?
Okay.
However, what I will say is that we know historically our Black parents are not involved at the school level in our children's lives, right? And a lot of that has to do, latchkey kids have multiple jobs, right? Just don't have the time. That's how I grew up. My dad was an educator, but again, he was working so hard to take care of us. He wasn't going to be on our PTA staff, right? He wasn't going to be a chaperone to any of our events. He couldn't.
I think that's I gotta step in. I think that's
you can defend.
I think that's stereotypical.
let me get it out.
Okay, go ahead.
But this is historic. This is actual data, right? This is facts. Not all Black parents are in a, not say that all Black parents. There is an absence. The percentage of Black parents that are involved in their children's school activities, right? There's an open forum or a board meeting to discuss the issues, and you look up and there's no parents there, right? In this particular podcast for the Conduit, I was asked to reach out to our Black children and create a space for them to talk about how the pandemic and social distancing and not being in class was affecting them. Have you seen that podcast?
No.
No, because no parents actually came around to the podcast. You see what I'm saying? So when they got the opportunity to advocate for it, right? And don't do it. But instead, what happens is we have folks that are like, you know what? I'm going to put my kid in this shirt and send him to school. And that's my way of protesting. I'm going to jump on Facebook or YouTube and I'm going to like or dislike, or I'm going to say something. And that's my protest, right? And those things aren't doing anything. So if you want change,
I agree.
Then you need to physically show up and make your voice heard and participate in it, right? So
I agree.
Parents that are sending a 5-year-old and 8-year-old into battle that they're not equipped for, right?
I agree.
They end up being expelled or suspended from the school, and now their learning is disrupted. And all for what? Because you have the right to put them in a BLM shirt and send them off to school.
So I do agree with some of your premise there, and that was my point with the 8-year-old and 5-year-old obviously are not buying their own clothes. They're not going into the store or wherever they got these shirts and purchasing them, right? So obviously the parents are dressing them and sending them there. I don't know what statistics you're looking at. I don't, I have seen, because I grew up in a, segregated city, Chicago, very segregated. And so I have seen, my experience with, the Black family was, they did participate, but, we live in a very diverse country. And so every population, isn't a true representation of the whole. Okay. So, and that's why I say that's kind of stereotypical.
I'll try to find the stats, but nationwide, the percentages of Black families that participate in PTA and chaperoning is not on par with white families, right? And again, there are factors for that. If I've got to go to another job and I can't get off, or I'm not going to be able to pay the rent, there's nothing I can do. If I don't make enough so that my stay-at-home wife can participate in these activities, then there's nothing I could do. I'm not saying that they're necessarily doing something wrong. Some of it is what it is. We're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But for whatever those reasons are, it is a statistical fact that is true.
Okay. All right. So now my next part that I was going to kind of talk about as far as these shirts goes, right? When, let's say, what was it, the 90s, when we were going to school in the NWA shirts, no problem with that. We call ourselves the N-word, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But, and again, like I said, because my thing with this story was a continuation of other stories that I've seen, right? Where we have, school officials, white school officials, that are upset about the Derek Chauvin case, and they're lashing out on the students, right? Now, I don't know, and I cannot say, you know, however, what I do know is that Black Lives Matter, like you said, really took off around George Floyd. We've seen a lot of apparel, face masks, everything, being sold and distributed with the BLM on it. It is hard to imagine that this 8 and 5-year-old are the first two African American children in this school district that has worn BLM attire to school. In fact, if we look right here in the back of the picture behind this beautiful elder with pink hair, we see this young lady that is also wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. And she obviously looks older, probably, freshman in high school, maybe 8th, 9th grade, somewhere around there. So it's hard to imagine that these two young children are the first two to wear this type of apparel in that school district. And even we see here looks like some white parents in this photograph that are also wearing Black Lives Matter. And we know we have white advocates that, don the apparel as well, and may have likely sent their own children to school in that type of apparel. My thing is, I feel like these two children are targeted because, like you just said, they're not equipped for the battle. They don't have, they do not have the skills to advocate for themselves at 5 and 8 years old. And so I feel like they were targeted. We seen a school in Pennsylvania. I'm gonna do some searching because I got to find these stories again. But where's my notebook? That's not here. Okay, but we seen a school in Pennsylvania that targeted specifically their African American students and required them to answer a list of questions around the Derek Chauvin case, to advocate, for George Floyd, and pressured the students to do this. And that kind of blew up. We just seen in New Jersey, same thing happened. This older white gentleman, on the Zoom video. So we had him recorded, attacking, his black students over the Derek Chauvin case, and since that verdict has been passed down, I have been seeing an increase of school officials attacking our young black students because they're upset about the verdict. And this here, and that's why I say this, I feel like is a continuation, because I hadn't seen this type of thing prior to the conviction, and now after the conviction, we're seeing these things. But if I'd have been seeing these things happening, within the last year, then I could say, okay, well, maybe they don't want that kind of, political rhetoric. And that's why I said, we've seen the white children that, wore the mega gear, and it wasn't a, hey, you can't wear this political attire. And then we also seen, and I know for a fact that children wore Black Lives Matter apparel to school. We did not see the backlash, So again, I gotta ask, like, I feel like it's an attack on our children. And that's where I see it from. The mother, even in this article, asks, like, where in the dress code is this a violation? So it's nothing in the dress code at this school that says that, hey, this is a violation. So then, what is this really about? And that's why I say I feel like this is, racially motivated, because people aren't able to handle what happened during the trial, and now they're attacking our children.
I agree with that. What I would say, Rev, is what we're seeing is these schools are a microcosm of the whole of the country, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, if you take Kitsap County, right, our county is 3 to 4% black, and so in any school, we're going to be vastly outnumbered. And so we've had our issues in this county with racial problems, right? And so what happens is, and I think in this case where you have a 5 and 8 year old, right, that comes into the classroom, it could have been that particular teacher, right? What is that? Second grade or something like that? Second, third grade. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it could have been a teacher. It could have been the parents of the kids that are that age that are saying, look, this is the second grade, and here you are, putting this political stuff in my kid's face, and I can't learn, and I can't do this and that. We know that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and if it's a white squeaky wheel, it damn sure gets the oil, right? And so their voices are more powerful than ours in a lot of ways, right? And so, what we saw, I remember when Trump was first elected, and I told folks, Trump was going to win, and people were like, oh, no, he's not going to win, this, that, and the other. And as soon as he won, it was like everyone came out the closet, right? All of the closeted bigots and racists and everything else is like, oh, hallelujah, it's on. And over 4 years, they became more emboldened, right, to do and say what they wanted, right? You saw the cops do it. You saw the hate groups do it. You saw individuals do it, right? And so now that you have, the murder of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin, and then you have the verdict that he's guilty, right? There's going to be, look, they've already stormed the Capitol. So if you're willing to storm the Capitol and be insurrectionists, what do you think they're going to do at the school level with their kids, right? Because these people were everywhere, right? They were business owners and lawyers, doctors, and every
police officers,
right? Every sector. And that's why we talk about institutional white supremacy, right? It is throughout everywhere. You don't need a sheet anymore. You wear a tie and a clipboard and a stethoscope. It is what it is. It's everywhere, and it's old and it's young, right? Because it is continued to be taught. It was just that it was closeted because you had Obama ascend to the presidency, right? And so, and then we also have cancel culture. So you don't want to be canceled. So you do the discrimination, that's more not overt, right? So, you reject the applicant off of some other, reason. You don't sell the house to this particular person so that you can keep it a white, or keep it clean, and not destroy property values. We see these things everywhere, right? And so to me, this is just a microcosm of the whole, and this is the response, right? We have to be able to fight somehow, some way, and we are going to, BLM is that thing. It is just so offensive and so triggering that it doesn't matter, even if it's a 5 and 8 year old. And here we are having this dialogue and saying, hey, look, this isn't the kid's fault, right? They don't buy their clothes. The parents put them in this political statement and sent them to the school. But now you've got, white adults attacking these children to the point of, expelling them and suspending them from school. They're not learning math. They're not learning English. They're not learning science. They're not learning history. They're not learning financial literacy, right? They're not learning how to read. They're not learning how to write. And this is what's going on with them, right? But the parents have put them in this position. And unfortunately, in our community, we have got to stop putting ourselves into feckless arguments and fights that really steer us away from, actual change, right? So this is what we're fighting, is the right to wear a political statement to a school, which now is so polarizing that even many of us in the Black community don't even identify with the organization. We only identify with the statement. So it's problematic, and we have to, this is warfare, right? And we know that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we have to think differently. And we have to be smarter. We have to know when they're going to use, our own arguments against us, right? Well, why do you get to use the N-word and we can't use the N-word? Well, I used it with the GA and not the ER, so it's all good. And I was singing it, right? So they find all these different things, and now we're arguing on whether or not they can use the word and what tense they can use the word in, when the whole thing is we need to address, qualified immunity. We need to address, dismantling, these structures of racism and those that are keeping it and upholding it, even those of us that are not in the dominant society because of our meritorious manumissions, right? So to me, that's really where it is. It's unfortunate for these children. I do not, to be clear and state it, no, I do not think they should have been kicked out of school. They should not have been suspended or expelled. But I do believe, at some point, what does the school do? So they tell the child or through the parent, please do not send your children here with the shirt on. The parent continues to send the child to the school with the shirt on. So what is the school district supposed to do? Just allow them to come in and sit in the class?
Yeah.
That's what you think?
Yeah.
And so then what does that beget? So the people that are complaining about that, right? So now they start wearing KKK shirts to the classroom.
Yeah.
So that's what you want. So to me, what ends up happening is just total anarchy. So now you got BLM in the classroom, now you got KKK in the classroom, and there's no learning taking place. We just got a war going on in second grade.
So you play chess, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you understand sacrificing, certain pieces, on the board, strategic sacrifices, right? So we look at, let me go back to this story, right?
Right.
And that was something, I don't know if you've seen where I highlighted that at, right? So we have to understand that, like you said, this is a war, right? And so because this is a war, not every single battle is going to be, like, all that important. It's not going to, some battles are just going to be footnotes. Some battles ain't even going to get written down in the book. You know what I'm saying? They're just that insignificant. But in the grand scheme of things, in the overall picture of things, every battle really does matter, and some battles, we have to learn to concede and just say, hey, I'm going to let that one go. But this is a particular battle that is, it seems insignificant. And what you do is you let your pawns fight this one. So like you said, while we're fighting things like qualified immunity, reparations, and everything else, and you got like your rooks and your knights, battling those out, over here, like, because there's some quiet work that needs to be done in the background where folk ain't paying attention and listening. You know what I'm saying? And so this keeps them just as distracted because everybody's not qualified to be a voice in certain fights because they'll do more damage than harm. Like, I understand my role. I'm not the one to send to go and argue for reparations. I'm just not that intelligent. I'm not that smart. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be quiet on that. I'm gonna let some folk that really, know how to make legal arguments and so forth, make those type of arguments. This particular argument, though, is more than just a shirt, because when we begin to, what it is about allowing them to silence us. You see this part right here, back in 69, students, had to sue about wearing black armbands over the opposing the Vietnam War. The Supreme Court already made a ruling on this, saying that schools can't stop students from their constitutional right of free speech. And that's what saying Black Lives Matter is. It's their free speech. It's a right to their free speech to say and believe whatever they want to. So while this, noisy, argument that really, like I said, is just a lot of fodder, but you know what I'm saying, while that's going on, we have more intelligent people making more, you know what I'm saying, substantive moves, you know, in the community that now they're not paying attention to either, because we're going to have those of us that, you know, going to pay attention to, you know, these little small things, and they're going to rah like you said. I did my you know, I did my Facebook post, and that's my protest. And you know, I sent my kids with the shirt on, that's my protest. It's creating, you know what I'm saying, chaos and havoc, where even they are occupied, their minds, some of their better minds now are occupied on something that, you know, they're not really finna do nothing about. The Supreme Court already ruled on this, you know. So you want to go to court on this, that's fine. You know, let's waste your time and your money. The Supreme Court then already ruled on this, you know, and we're gonna waste your better minds while, you know, people like, you know, Cornel West and Dr. Clark and, you know, Dr. Anderson and people like that or whatever, you know, they're thinking on and working on reparations, and they're working on, you know, moving us forward in society because they have, you know, the better minds to do that type of work. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Like,
you're saying two things here. So on the first hand, I agree with what you're saying, right? So if you're talking about the Supreme Court ruling and you're talking about the rule of law, then yes, they should be able to wear it. But if that is the case, then, you know, kids can come to school with, you know, free Derek Chauvin shirts on there and Blue Lives Matter, right?
Indeed.
And what we're saying, what I'm saying is, in most of the places where this happens, right? This isn't going to happen in the school you grew up in, segregated Chicago, right? Because it's predominantly Black, right? Yeah. But that would happen in schools where it's not predominantly Black, where we are 3 and 4%, and now we're watching 20 or 30% of kids walking around with free Derek Chauvin shirts, right? And so now kids who are not equipped to deal with that, right? And they're at school to try to learn, and we're already fighting from behind, now has to take this on at the same time. And so when you talk about the fodder, yeah, I think we see the fodder as two different things. You're saying, you know, hey, we can tie them up in the courts, and we can do this, and we can do that. I say it's a failed strategy because the fodder is our children, right? The fodder are the parents that are raising the children, and now our children are being taught to fight by saying, you know what? The only way that we can win is to get down in the muck and roll around. And while we're rolling around doing this, the very few of us are here doing some higher level work, right? Now, Dr. Claude Anderson and some of our most beloved champions and heroes, right? They're old. They're getting ready to go. So who is the next generation of the Dr. Andersons and this and that? Well, it was supposed to be our children. But right now they're in a proxy battle because they're wearing a BLM t-shirt, right? And they're not learning about financial literacy and economic freedom and sovereignty and all these other things that are going to pull them out of their situation, right? So to me, I just feel like, you know, it is a strategy. And it does work, and it does tie it up. But remember, you know, they still outnumber us. You know, even though the dominant society is what 55% of the nation, we're 13, and so we can't match that in a numbers battle. So for the few, because not all of the 55% of the dominant society is racist and ignorant and all that. Let's say it's 13%, just to give a nice little number, right? So they have enough to offset us right there, right? Well, the other 20% that are up there, they're going through and they're making, you know, voter suppression laws and everything else, right? And so we're still losing. And case in point, you know, just to go back where you were saying you disagreed with the parents not being involved in their kids' lives, I give you a political example, right? So when Obama was elected, Black folks came out in droves, get out to vote, this and that, as our first Black president, and we did. And then what happened when it came to midterm elections? Black people stayed home, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, it's just not as important because it's not Obama, so we're not going to do it. The same thing is likely to happen here in 2 years. They're already losing ground in Georgia. So why does it take, if we're living in this racist society of Trump, right, in the era of Trump, and as bad as it was, why did we have to have Black folks come in and just go crazy and fight like hell to get folks to come out to win Georgia.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have had to have done that, right? And so you had to do that just to barely squeak by and to get there, and it's already being eroded 100 days in. And so, that's why I say Black people aren't engaged in the Facebook things and this and that. What it does is it continues to socialize us and to teach us to fight in ineffectual ways, right? Instead of saying, you know what, don't put the shirt on. And instead of now you're taking off work or you're after work and you're tired and you got you and your kids sitting out here saying, we should be able to wear our shirt. No, now we're all in a meeting learning financial literacy. We're all in a meeting, figure out how, those of us that are stay at home maybe could take care of our kids. So now we can save that money and invest that money because we're not spending $1,500 a month in childcare. Right? Maybe the ones that are smarter can give us some tutoring in English and math because we have it there and we don't have to pay the $15 or $20 an hour or stay after school. Right? And so now we've got that mentorship and that sense of community, and we can do those things, and that time is used in a more productive manner. And now we can be taught on how to truly invoke change, right? So instead of you wearing a shirt and protesting, you're going to learn how to be a community leader. And you're going to be an alderman, and you're going to be a council person, and you're going to run for office, and you're going to sit on committees, right? You're going to do those things, and we're going to teach you how to fight their battle so that you beat them at their own game. That's my thought.
I concede. Well argued. I do concede. No, I see that. I see your point in that. Yeah, I can't argue with that logic. That very well stated. I do concede to that, to your point on that. However, I do believe, that, yeah, we still should be able to wear our BLM, shirts without having to, face backlash, because somebody's angry over a court trial. But I see where you're coming from, and I concede to that.
I agree. Both things can be true, right?
Yeah.
There's a better way to fight, and we should be able to wear the t-shirt, right? Both things can be true at the same time. It's just we end up getting caught up in, all right, we need to tear down this racist statue. No, we need to get rid of qualified immunity.
Yeah. The whole statue thing, I never really got. It was like whatever, they've been up for whatever. It, yeah.
Rights.
Huh?
What's that statue doing to your rights?
Yeah.
You don't even see it anymore. It's like something on a bulletin board. You walk past it every day. Someone posts up something new. You don't even read it. It's just
my thing. What it was. When that whole argument started, the statue argument started coming out. I was like, look, why are y'all tripping? They should put up more of them because birds like to use them for toilets. So it's like, yeah, put up a couple more, and let them get pooped on. Look, the bums at night like to go and use them for toilets. The birds use them for toilets during the daytime. Like, yeah, I don't care. Okay.
My race in my face. Let me know that you don't care about me. Don't smile.
Oh, yeah.
Shake my hand and then stab me in my back. So,
yeah.
I'd rather know where you stand than for you to act like it's something else. And so
the
era of Trump was great. And you and I disagree on this, but I think another 4 years would have been fantastic because we're not awake yet. We just want to go back to sleep, right?
Yeah.
As a whole, not all of us, but not enough of us yet are like, you know what? We're done. That's enough. And
I think 30 days of him was too much. Yeah, but I do appreciate the fact that it did bring a lot of those closet racists out of the closet, and they're out and they're moving about now, which is good because I'm in agreement. I like to know where you stand at, and I can respect you for that. And I think we discussed that before. I can respect your races. That's fine. Let me know that. But I guess that kind of transitions into the next story that I had for us to talk about.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to share this. We're going to watch a quick. Oh, hold on. I didn't share it. I clicked too soon. I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to watch a quick YouTube video. And I want to get your thoughts and opinions on this particular story. because the racists are out of the closet now. I think you were just saying how we see, are we seeing, all kinds of people at the Capitol on January the 6th, including law officers from right here in this state in Washington, and our neighboring state, Oregon, which is where this particular story is from. And so let's watch this real quick, and then maybe you can give us your thoughts on this.
Sure.
Or excuse me.
Hold on.
We
started in a little soon. Sorry. Okay.
Fair use.
New at 6:30, a Forest Grove police officer is facing charges after the Washington County Sheriff's Office says he destroyed Halloween decorations at a stranger's home while off duty. Earlier today, Fox 12's Kendra Kent spoke with the family involved. They say the suspect terrorized them in the middle of the night and even tried to kick in their door and fight with them. She joins us live tonight with their interview. Kendra?
Well, Pete, the woman says that this happened early Halloween morning and that at the time she had no idea why this suspect was even targeting her home. But she thinks later, when she found out more about the case, that it had to do with her Black Lives Matter flag that was displayed on her garage. This is Officer Stephen Teets. This photo was, or excuse me, we know that this was Officer Stephen Teets. He was cited by the Washington County Sheriff's Office and charged with second-degree criminal mischief and second-degree disorderly conduct. Forest Grove man involved says they woke up in the middle of the night to their truck alarm going off, and then they saw a man banging on their Black Lives Matter flag. They say when they confronted him from their doorway, he ran at them, so they shut the door and locked it. That's when the family says the suspect started kicking their door, trying to open it and yelling at them. They say that he then destroyed their Halloween decorations and patio lights. They called 911 for help and said the man then took off. Morella Castaneda said it was tough for her to find out whether police ever found the suspect or made an arrest. And she says she only found out the suspect was a cop after she later Googled his name. She told me the experience was terrifying and not knowing what was going on made it much worse.
The frustration of not being able to get information and, knowing that this guy knows exactly where I live, came back the next day, and me not knowing anything. It just added just so much more fear. I wasn't allowing the children to go anywhere. I had to go buy cameras for the door because, there I was kicking myself for not having all these things. My husband's talking about, getting weapons.
Yeah, so I'm going to pause it right there. No need to really kind of play the whole thing. Let me see if I can. Okay, trying to go back here. Oh, wait a minute. I did not mean to do that part. Hold on. I want to keep sharing it because now that was just a little bit of the YouTube video there. And what we end up finding out when you read the story, right, is that he was not acting alone. He actually, and so even though I know this was talking about Halloween and stuff, as you can see right here, this is a real recent story from, the 10th. I found this yesterday. And but there's another officer that was involved in this. A second officer was the driver. And this officer was on duty. The second officer was actually on duty and responded to the 911 call. And so they tried to cover this up. They tried to do a cover up on it and everything. I'm trying to find that part of the story, but I would just like to kind of, get your thoughts on this in light of, like I said, we're seeing an increase in, I feel like I'm seeing an increase in targeting of Black people since the Derek Chauvin trial. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this particular story.
All right, so yeah, here's how I feel about this, and you know, I'm about to go in on what should be done. First off, if you are going to hold a position as a peacekeeper, I use that term loosely, our military, our judges, our elected officials, and you are to be held at a higher standard of decorum, conduct on and off duty. This qualified immunity thing is it has to be abolished and destroyed, right? You've got Jim Clyburn, who is a congressman, who is saying, you know, again, one of these Black politicians getting their meritorious manumissions that are saying, hey, you know, we don't want to get rid of a good bill for a perfect bill because, you know, they're talking about qualified immunity is not going to be in it, right? You take these these pieces of trash, right? I got my own with the rap, so I'm trying to watch my language. You take their pensions. You do not allow them to work anywhere. You couldn't guard a candy store. You don't have your weapon. You've lost your Second Amendment rights. All of that is gone. See, because what has happened to us in this community from time immemorial is you put us in jail, you hit us with a felony. So it's the first thing that you do, right? You take our right to vote, you take our right to bear arms, you take away our right to earn a living, right? And I'm going to say a living, not a job, but an actual career. But you are at a higher station in life. So if you do these things, then you need to lose all of those same things. He will never have a firearm again, right? He will not have his pension. And who gives a damn? Oh, well, he's done so many good things in the community. He's supposed to. She's supposed to. They're held to a higher standard. And you weren't drafted. You went into this willingly. So you destroy that. And what you do is you have folks that are going to leave the force, right? Because they don't want to be held accountable for their actions, and good police can come in and actually protect and serve. So that's what should happen, right? And to terrorize, first off, most of these people are cowards and they don't do things by themselves, right? And what I mean by that is they never do it by themselves. It's never a one-on-one type situation, right? And even when it's physically one-on-one, they've got on a bulletproof vest and a taser and a baton and a sidearm and handcuffs and pepper spray and did I say a taser, right? And training, right? So they have all these things, but they're afraid of you that has none of these things.
Yeah.
So these cowards never do anything on their own. Of course, they're going to do it in numbers. Destroy them. Because what they are doing is they are destroying the fabric of what they say America is supposed to be. Destroy their asses. That's how I feel about it.
Hey, I cannot argue with any of that. And you know, if you want to get a little colorful with your language, I was not gonna stop you, brother. Trust me, because I get heated about this too. You know, and I feel the same way. Like, they should be held at a higher standard. We know that our community, and you're just kind of alluding to this, you know, a little bit. Michelle Alexander, I think she did an awesome job on her book, The New Jim Crow, The Age of Mass Incarceration. In the Age of Mass Incarceration, I read that a couple of times. I think she did a fantastic job on that book. But we know that they are purposefully targeting us and creating second-class citizens. So in addition to the things that you named, as far as taking our voting rights and so forth, you know, our right to earn a living, you know, even once we're released from prison, you know, we're excluded from things like, you know, from social services that would allow us to get back on our feet. And again, you know, and this is one of my main things the problem I had with, you know what I'm saying, one of the people you just named, Mr. Clyburn, you know what I'm saying, and who I totally fault for Biden being in office. You know, because of what Biden did in the 90s in his crime bill, you know, now we have our fathers who they targeted purposefully to get them out of the home, make the black woman dependent on the white man, i.e., you know, federal subsidies. And now, okay, when you do get released from prison, you can't live in government housing. You can't come home. You got to find somewhere else to go. You know, we didn't got rid of you. And now that we've gotten rid of you, we're going to demonize you and say, oh, the black male's absent from the family. But you just gave me 10 times more, you know, years, you know, for a small piece of crack rock. And now, you know, my counterpart, the white man, he got, you know, a pound of powder cocaine. But, you know, oh, we're going to give you a slap on the wrist. Don't let us see you with that. Keep that, you know what I'm saying, locked away. We don't want to see it, you know. And so we're dealing with things like that. And now on top of that, law enforcement has ramped up, you know, and I believe this was part of the MAGA era, you know, where like you said, all these people came out of the closet. That includes law enforcement because they're, you know, you have racists ingrained in every aspect of society. Did we talk about that? I don't know if we talked about that on air, but do you remember I was sharing with you the story of the guy that got kicked out of the military because they found links to a white supremacist group. So they kicked him out. And then down in Georgia, it was a sheriff deputy. He got fired, ended up getting arrested, but they found out that he was planning on, he admitted that he was planning. You know, there's no evidence that he actually did, and that's why I said they should go over his cases, but he was planning on he said he was planning on charging black people with felonies so that he could take away their right to vote. I don't know if you remember me sharing those two particular stories with you, but we have, you know, we have people going into the military and they're seeking this training for specific reasons. They're seeking to be police officers for nefarious reasons, like this one gentleman admitted, to, you know, do further harm to the black community. And to see something like this, especially so close to home, you know, down in Oregon, it was very disturbing. And it's like, you know, not only are you doing this, but you have another officer, and I don't know if you can see the screen right now, but it's showing that, you know, he was not alone. He had a driver, another officer named Bradley Schultz, who responded to the home when the police were called. So you're out terrorizing people. You have your on duty buddy ride you around, and you know you're out here being a criminal. And then when we call the people that's supposed to help us, you know, help defend us from crime, you're actually a part. You're actually one of the perpetrators. You know, so who do we turn to? Who do we trust? And this is why I am such a big advocate of everybody exercising their Second Amendment rights, and not only exercising their Second Amendment rights, but learning how to properly and safely use your firearms. You know, is having a tool that you don't know how to use or you're afraid to use is more dangerous than not having a tool. You know, so I advocate for people to own firearms and train with them regularly.
Ice Cube said it's better to be judged by 12 than be carried by 6. But here's the thing. Here's what's tough about this story, right? So you've got this cop who's vandalizing, you know, and terrorizing this family. Then when the family calls the police, his buddy, who actually was his accomplice, shows up to the house as response. Now, this could have played out very differently, right? Because they could have escalated the situation, and then, oh, you're resisting arrest, right? Which could have turned into you being shot, right? This could have played out a very different way. And so when we have a story like this, and they're like, oh, I was saying this in my podcast yesterday, right? When you say, oh, there's just a few bad apples, but they stop the saying there. The saying is a few bad apples spoil the bunch. The bunch is bad because there's so many folks that lay quiet and don't say anything and allow these things to happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So no, the whole thing is broken. So
yes,
if we have the evidence that this has happened, and two things. One, even if they go back and open the cases up, see, the way our judicial system works is we charge you and we throw the book at you and we overcharge you. So we're going to charge you with 2 or 3 things. We're going to charge you in the highest degree that we can. And then we're going to chuck out 2 or 3 of them and say, hey, you pleaded this, and then you just do this time and that's it. No trial. And if you go to trial, if you dare to take it to trial and waste the court's time and money, we're going to bury your ass, right? And so 95% of cases, I believe, end in, a plea deal.
Yeah.
You don't have the money and the time and the resources to fight, right? So you're probably not going to find any evidence because people are like, man, okay, maybe I did do something, or maybe I didn't, but there's no point in me saying that, man, I'm innocent. You're trying to throw me away for 10 years, 7 years. I mean, it doesn't have to be 20 years, right? If you go to jail for 3 years, that is destructive to you and your family. So, okay, I don't want 3 years. You're going to give me 7 months in jail and a felony? Man, I'm going to take that. You know what I mean? And that's what we've been facing in this country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you can see, this cop terrorizing this family, then calling his buddy to be the responder, then you can see how when they do a traffic stop and they're all around the guy and she's like, taser, 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 and then shoots the man dead. And then it's complicit, or your body cam falls, or never is turned on, or shut off, right? Or he resisted arrest, or this, or that, and it's all collaborated. And then after, they're laughing at the scene. They're joking. They're showing videos. They're not rendering first aid immediately, right? They're shooting to kill. They're shooting people in the back of the head. They're firing excessively. They just killed a black guy. I think he killed his girlfriend or whatever, took the baby. They're on a high-speed chase. They end up getting the car to stop and shoot like 40 bullets in the back and kill the kid. They knew the kid was in the car. Why would you fire?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the kid who got shot and killed, who was holding the phone to his head, and the guy's like, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. You're not in any danger. Even if you thought it was a gun, he's holding it to his own head. So your response is to kill him?
Yeah.
I mean, so this is what we're dealing with, right? And that's why you got to take their pension. You got to take their Second Amendment rights. You got to take their right to vote. You got to destroy their asses the way that they destroy everybody else.
Yeah. I so totally agree. And that's well said. And that is, that's always been the battle, and we know in the community that often when we go in the courtroom, we're the only people we see that that look like us other than other defendants. The judge isn't black. The prosecutor isn't black, our defense attorney isn't black, nobody's black except for us. And
when they are, they're coming down out of the stand to give Geiger a hug, right? That's the meritorious missions.
Yes.
So it's not complexion. That's why I say the institution of white supremacy, it's a machine, and it doesn't matter who is plugged into the machine. It doesn't have to be a white person. It could be BIPOC, it could be LGBT, because they're invested in keeping the institution of white supremacy going, right?
Yes.
So that's how it is. You can plug in the black face that you allowed to ascend to that space, but now that black person has to go along to get along to keep the machine going. If not, we're going to chew you up and spit you out. And they love to break their toys when they're done with them.
Yes.
Bottoms, Atlanta, she's now not going to run again, right? But they were telling her that she was going to be the next best thing since sliced.
Who's not running again? You're cutting in and out.
Keisha Lance Bottoms.
Oh,
in Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah. She's not running. Why? What happened? What happened there?
Well, I mean, they used her for what she was worth, and now you're taking all the heat, and you're not going to ascend. She's done.
Wow.
They break their toys and they're done with them. And the problem is here, and this is nationwide, but even in our own community, right? We will have Black folks that will listen to this podcast and say, hey, brother, man, you're talking a little too hard about the police, and we're not going to be able to make progress if you isolating people and you attacking people. I mean, we got to open up a dialogue and have conversation. But at the same time, we've got the sheriff signing a petition that says that we don't need to get rid of lynching or whatever in this country, right? It's already on the book. So I don't need to write a statement or say whatever, right?
Yeah.
But, you're meeting with these same people and having these dialogues, right? But you can't, I hate the phrase, speaking truth to power, right? Well, how much truth are you actually speaking? And what truth is it?
Yeah.
Right? So it's my truth, and I can speak it only to a point, because as soon as you start being affected by my truth, then it's a problem. But however, when you speak your truth, I can be all kinds of, destroyed and hurt by it, right?
Yeah.
And most times it's not even the truth. It's just an assumption that I'm lazy, that I'm superstitious, that I'm ignorant, that I'm a criminal, that I'm hypersexual, that I'm cowardly, right? Because that's what they say about the heterosexual Black male, right? And not only, and when I say who is they, right? The institution of white supremacy. And again, I told you can plug anyone into that. So that means our indigenous folks. That means our Asian Americans, our Pacific Islanders, our Latinos, our LGBTQ, our immigrant community, right? Many of them are speaking this way against us because we're in this space, right? And it's easy. We're in this really strange paradigm of you're trying to dismantle the white patriarchy and the white supremacy structure that starts from there. And you're saying, oh, well, you're also a man, so ergo you must be dismantled also. But the fact that you're Black, well, you must be oppressing your women, or you must be doing this and that. And we haven't been doing that. No,
not at all. Actually, the Black man was always the most liberal. It was the white man that didn't want his woman working. They co-opted our females into their feminist movement. And I can't stand to see a Black woman walking around talking about feminism and stuff. Do your research on that. Really see where that come from, because it wasn't about us oppressing you. No, we didn't oppress you. It was the white man oppressing his woman. Didn't want her vote and didn't want her work and wanted to keep her barefoot and pregnant and in the house. That was him. That was what he wanted. That was never us. That didn't come from us. Another problem that I see as you talk about the system is, I think a lot of people start out with good intentions, but that it's rare that you're able to maintain those same good intentions as you ascend, because what's happening is you have people that are fighting to get into the system and ascend in the system, with the initial intentions of changing or dismantling the system. One second, I'm gonna let you jump back in there. They want to.
That was me. I'm that person.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so you want to get in and dismantle the system. However, it's a cost to ascending. There's a cost to ascending. As you go up and up, there's a cost that's associated with that, where now you begin to have to make certain compromises in order to progress, and then that wipes out all those good intentions that you started out with. And now you're, like you said, you're plugged in, as that Black face that's, doing nothing more than, perpetuating, the same thing that they used to just reserve for a white face. But in the guise of, diversity, we're going to open it up and we're going to make it look like a rainbow coalition. But every face in here is going to, be subject to, maintaining the status quo. And we find that. And so it makes it harder to, like you say, point a finger at, this is, racism, even though, we know it. Look, you ain't got to say the N word. And I can tell, saying your attitude is telling me who you really are. Even though I appreciate it if you would just go ahead and say it, it'd make it a whole lot easier for both of us. But, that's what it's become, where now people are paying this cost to ascend, and it now becomes about ascending more than helping the people from where you first come from, and so there's no good done, and now we're dealing with, again, we're dealing with, we're fighting on more fronts now because of this so-called integration, diversity, and so forth, where they're trying to make it look more equitable and equal, but you're just plugging in different color faces to do the same thing that the white man used to do in the 30s and 40s. Now in the 2000s, you got a Hispanic face or a black face or Indian, Native American face or whatever else, perpetrating the same, racist values, racist, racism that we've always faced. But that's my rant. I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Oh, so here's what I'm gonna say, Rev. Right? When I talk about, us, when I talk about, our plight, our challenges, and our issues, our domestication, the way that we were raised, right? We were raised for integration and assimilation, right? And that's what King fought for. And in the end, he was, going more toward Malcolm. And the problem is, again, I'm guilty of it, right? I was a butter biscuit seeking, meritorious manumission, cooning and buffooning, going along to get along. That's who I was, right? Because that's what I was taught in order to ascend into the places that I wanted to be in, that's what I had to do. I was going to go along to get along. And if you go and you get into these spaces and you speak out, you are going to be dismantled, right? And destroyed. And that's what has happened to me on occasions as I've started to wake up, right? And so what I believe is important for Black people is we have to understand that people are going to wake up at different times in different stages in their lives. And for those of us that are further down the path, and I can use the analogy of, the walk in Christianity, the walk with God, right? Some people are further along than others, right? The pastor is probably further along than, maybe some of the deacons are further along than the people that sit in the front row. That's further along than those that just walked in the door, right? And so the whole thing is the way the church is supposed to operate is you walk in the door, you don't know Christ, and you're here to come to get to know Christ, and we're going to accept you in, and we're going to love you, and we're going to teach you, right? The problem is that many of us in the conscious society that are further along that have been doing the work for longer look at us that are coming in new and say, well, you're brand new. You don't have a voice. Sit back and shut up. You don't need to have an opinion. You need to learn more. Once you've been doing it as long as I have, then you can speak up, right? And then we're also not able to point out because we're not too far in the forest for the trees. We can say, hey, look, man, this is what we're seeing from the outside. Now we want to come in here and evoke change because now we're awake, but we see some cooning and buffooning from you, right? And you not, pushing things and holding folks to the fire and really holding them accountable. And this looks like you going along to get along and hearing, well, you just got to understand, or, you just don't understand, these things take time. It's got to be this. And then you get the Clayburns, and then you get the Kamala Harrises, and then you get the Tim Scotts, right? And then you get all these folks, and then we're just sitting here how it is, right? And then it's like, oh, well, let's make the Black national anthem, the nation's song. Well, what the hell does that do, right?
Yeah.
Up on the back, look what we did, So, for us Black folks, I think it's important that as those of us wake up, we may still be straddling the road of seeking out meritorious manumissions, and we are in conflict with ourselves and what our values are, and we need to support them and help them to grow and not ostracize them and turn them away, because that's destructive. For those of us that aren't awake, we need to continue to have the conversations and point that out. You see, right now, there's no accountability, a very little accountability in our own culture, right? So you can't tell us nothing right now. We're the most oppressed. When you talk about women, you dang sure can't say anything about what they're doing that isn't upright, because you can't speak out against women, right? You're a misogynist, right? And don't be a heterosexual male, especially a black male, talking about, the female population, because you're definitely a misogynist, right? And so then that is exceedingly dangerous, because what it does is they get to have these little proxy wars and say, okay, well, you know what? Look, he said this about you. So, and then now you're wound up and now you're fighting each other, and they just keep on passing their laws and doing what they do. And we don't we don't go anywhere. And so I think it's important. And one thing that I want to do as a leader in this community is to say, hey, I'm not perfect. And not saying it in hyperbole and in general, kind of speak, but, I was that person. In some ways, I may still be that person in certain instances, because you can't just go into spaces and be how you may want to be, because they're going to shut the door on you before you get in, right? There's decorum. You go to a high-scale restaurant, there's a dress code. You go to fast food, there's a way that you socialize and you act in those spaces. So you have to get into those spaces in order to invoke change. We do need to do it in a different way. But I think part of a strategy that would work is if we're not going into those spaces alone, but we're actually going in with the community, right? So if it's just not me ascending to a position or a space, then it's less likely that if I get to that space, if I've brought you and 10 other people that are feeling the same way together, that we are actually on mission and we're on code and pushing for the actual change that is going to be tangible and lasting.
I can understand what you're saying there. I think also though in parallels to that is that we have to begin to create our own spaces, as well as just always trying to get into or kick down the doors of their spaces. It's high time that we start putting value on who we are, what we have to offer, and what we do, and creating our own spaces. Of course, there's going to be some spaces, where they occupy the higher seat right now, and that we're gonna have to use decorum and to get in and ascend, but we do need those who can maintain mindfulness of who they are, where they came from as they ascend, and then, like I said, just start creating where possible, creating our own spaces. But nevertheless, I got two more.
Rev, isn't that what we're doing now today?
It is, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's what I'm saying. Where possible, we do things like this. We create our own space, and and put value on us, So I've I grew up, like I said, in segregated Chicago, so I always knew where I stood with them, like, hey, it's good. But anyway, I got two more stories that I really want to get to. I got to go and help my brother out. He's getting married here soon. And so let me turn to this. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay, I want to turn to this one first. Let me share the screen here again for us.
Rev gets that ready. You are watching The Conduit with Marwan Cameron and 2x2 Studies with Reverend Michael Ellington. We are here every week having these discussions. So please tune in and, comment, because we will go back and often speak on your comments and maybe even make that a topic. So please do weigh in.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so here's and we're just going to look at the highlight at the article. We're going to look at the title and just kind of weigh in on this one a little bit. We don't really need to get into the story. It is what it is. It says athletes cannot wear Black Lives Matter apparel or protest at the Olympics. And so we know right now in the Asian part community, the Asian world, particularly in China, particularly in China, they've always been pretty oppressive of their population when it comes to them speaking out, or protesting anything that their government does. But I know right now the Olympics are slated to be held in Japan, and I believe this year, or coming up here shortly. And so, what do you make of this year not being able to wear Black Lives Matter? And of course, again, people, when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not talking about the organization. We're talking about your life, my life, their life. We're talking about Black lives do matter.
Well, and see, I think that's what the problem is.
But
Hey,
okay.
Hey, Rev, will you close that link? I think it's messing up your.
Okay, the one that's open.
Yeah.
All right, let me stop sharing it. That's all we needed.
All right, yeah, that sounds better. You were pixelating. All right, so here's my thought on it. And unfortunately, I agree with the Olympic Committee. And the reason is just for how we started this conversation, right? You can no longer separate the two. Black Lives Matter, the saying and what it means versus the organization. And because of it, I agree with it. Again, I submit that if we're looking at trying to understand or walk in a mile in another person's shoes, if this was the opposite and, people wanted to wear free Derek Chauvin during the Olympics and you had Chinese and Japanese and Koreans and Africans and everything else doing that, we might feel some kind of way about that. And so it's supposed to be a way to bring the world together to compete and kind of find a space to bring some type of unity. While you want to bring awareness to it, I think too much damage has been done to that name. And what I would like to see, and we haven't talked about that, is I think for those of us that are grassroots and understand that Black lives do matter, we need to find a different phrase. We just got to retire it, right?
I've thought the same thing. We freeze?
Yeah, you are a little bit.
All right, hold on. Let me know somebody. I only got one more story out. This one, and I got and just give me 1 second, brother, while I just close all of these out.
I was gonna say, why don't you put up the story?
I'm
all your windows, and then you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
You might be like me, where you got 1,000 windows open, but I'm just gonna talk while you put it up. Yep, I can already tell. It's like that's why he's having problems. As soon as he pulled up the video, the computer was like, I can't do it.
Like, no more.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. Crystals.
Yes. Okay, all right. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. But it sounds like you were agreeing with me. I think we need to retire the phrase. I think it's too toxic, right? They found a way to attack it, to make it really kind of a feckless point in argument. And so if you are from a debating standpoint, if you are constantly having to say, no, I don't mean Black Lives Matter, the organization, I mean Black Lives Matter in the saying, if you've got to do that and pre-qualify that, then, and people are being intellectually dishonest, but it really doesn't matter, right? It's been lost. And it's been lost because of those who started the organization, right? So we just need another phrase. I think that's really what it is. And we should never get married to one thing. Because again, this is war, right? And so in war, we talk about salvos. Salvos means this is the first salvo of many, right? So you're not going to latch on to this particular phrase, and then if you lose that phrase, it's like, oh, the battle's over, we lost. Like, no, we got so many other phrases, right?
Yeah.
I can't breathe. Hands up, don't shoot. There's 1,000 of them. So you just move on to something else and you keep it pushing. So they can't latch on to any one thing. So, you know, I agree with the Olympics. I don't think it should be there. I think because of what Black Lives Matter, the organization represents, what it's done, how it uses its funds, how it's disenfranchised and made money off the Black male bodies that it profited off of, then, you know, I just think, yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be in the Olympics.
Okay. Well, I can't argue with you on that one. I don't have no problem with you know, find a different terminology. And who knows, maybe you know, out of our conversations we'll come up with something that like catches on or whatever, you know, in the course of time. However, yeah, I don't think you know, make qualifying statements when you're trying to you know, argue a point. In saying that also, I think, you know, that was, you know, and out the gate, you know, it was you know, I guess bad marketing of the defund the police, because, you know, because of, you know, people just, you know, not wanting to let that terminology go, you know, even though like I said, out of the gate, you know, it just found so much pushback even within the community, you know, and the other side was very effective in dismantling, you know, that particular terminology, even though the idea behind the terminology I could get behind, but when you just say it in such a flat way, people, you know, you need to be able to speak, you know, on a level where it transcends, you know, intellectual levels. So even, you know, saying the third grader can say, oh yeah, you know, we need to defund the police, you know, even, but you know, it just doesn't sound right. You know, what do you mean get rid of the police? Who gonna protect me when, you know what I'm saying, Ray come try to take our new TV again? No, you know.
Oh.
Hey.
See what I'm saying? So even in a funny example that's just off the top of your head, Ray is a heterosexual black male that came in and stole the TV. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I didn't say Ray was black.
Oh, come on now, Ray.
Hey, okay, but see, there's a difference though, right? Again, I grew up in segregated Chicago, so the criminal was going to be black, but the, you know what I'm saying, the school teacher, the nurse, and them were going to be black too. You know what I'm saying? So my examples, you know, for me, you know, what I see is, you know what I'm saying, that's just who we are. It's not a monolith that all black people are, you know, criminals. And it's not a monolith that all black people, you know what I'm saying, are, you know, doctors and lawyers and teachers. Because like when I look when I go into my family, right? I got cousins that are doctors. You know, one of my cousins, he's the vice president of what is it? DL delivery service, the yellow and red one.
It's DHL.
DHL, that's what it is, you know. So I got like professionals. My aunt, my uncle, he was a principal, you know, like, so I got like professionals in my family, you know what I'm saying, intellectual professionals. You know, I see both sides of being black, and I just see us as like, that's who people are. Just the same way when you look in the white community, you're gonna find, you know, doctors, lawyers, whatever, but you're gonna find, you know, they got some Rays too, and some Pookies, you know what I'm saying?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray, yeah, they got a Billy Ray, and you know what I'm saying, whatever they little, you know, hood, trailer trash hood names is or whatever, I don't know, you know, but they got it on their side as well, you know, and so that's just something like one of my things where I feel like, you know, look, we got to break that down and stop thinking that, you know, one race is one way or another, because when you go in the Asian community, you got they got they triads, and you know what I'm saying, Asian mafia peoples or whatever, but they got, doctors and scientists too. You know what I'm saying? So every community is going to have, criminals, and they're going to have successful people. That's just because that's who people are. So I don't relate like stuff to color like that. So when I say like Ray, it's just like, because that's what I grew up around, like, but I see I know that all races have, criminal faction to it, Yeah. So, but with that being said, where I was, let's move on to the next story, because I kind of forgot where I was going with the first one.
I'm just talking with you. I'm drinking the red. Like, wait a minute.
I love my black people. I'm a strong black man. You know what I'm saying? Strong black man. Yeah. I might have been Muslim if I'd have grown up in the early 60s with Malcolm. Who knows?
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay. So our last story I want to get into, and I saved this one for last, particularly because I don't know how I feel about it. Well, I think I do. I don't think this is gonna do no good. You know what I'm saying? And I guess I'll give my opinion. I'll give my opinion after yours. How about that?
All right.
Okay. So let me share this last screen with you. And hit share. There we go. Where'd it go? There we go. And so can you see that?
Yeah, letter asked UN Human Rights Council to investigate U.S. police brutality against Black Americans.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? About, the community, the Black community, writing to the UN for help against, against America? Like, America ever listens to anybody? Even the UN. Like, we committed atrocities during the Iraq wars, the wars we were in the Middle East, as they call it, and in Vietnam and so many other places. Like, what is the UN really going to do to us?
Well, and I don't think right now, in my foreign policy isn't as sharp in this space as far as, would they impose any sanctions on the United States, right? I mean, right now we are still a superpower, right? We are providing vaccines and aid across the world, military aid. So we're doing all these different things. And I don't think the UN is going to do anything against us. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe China sent a letter to the UN and was saying, hey, you know what, America, how can you call out what we're doing or what any other country is doing when you're doing this to your Black community? But at the same time, China is taking over Africa and just doing really disgusting things on the continent, and also treating Africans and other Black people in China pretty badly. So, it's a way to, say, hey, you guys are doing bad, so you can't say anything about what we're doing, right? To kind of take the heat off of the stuff that they have going on. But, across the world, Black folks, the diaspora is being treated badly. And these are human rights issues. Do I think the UN is going to do anything about it? No. Do I think that if every a Black American in this country wrote a letter to the UN and said, hey, this is what's happening to us, we need help, I still don't think anything would happen. I think power is taken, it's not given. And so we have to come together and take our power, right? If we have economic power, if we just spend it the right way and do the right things with it, if we collaborate, if we start businesses, and for those businesses that are started, we begin to support them. If we educate our own, if we learn our history, if we teach our history, if we stand up, if we create our own spaces, as you said before, and as we go into those other spaces that we're congruent and we're going through with the accord of you're going to do right and fix the atrocities, address the atrocities. You're not going to fix anything, right? Address and pay reparations, right? In all of its forms to foundational Black Americans. So I think it's good for it to be on record, and I think there should be a reckoning on the world stage. So in that, I think, yes, that should happen, but I don't see anything coming of it aside from more symbology.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. If there was anything to come of it, it would purely be symbolic. America is not going to bow down to the UN, and we know we hold a seat on the Security Council at the UN, which is like a really huge deal, and because we're we got our tentacles, America, and when I say we, I mean America. America has their tentacles in some of everything all around the globe, and that's why many countries they've never spoken up, and said anything, and it's not like what's happening to us, to the community,
doing it to us in their own countries. So why would they speak up?
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't see anything coming of this, and I find it embarrassing actually that we did it. I mean, and if we even if people just would look over history, sorry, I got the I don't know if you can hear that, but the lawn people are out there doing the lawn. You can't hear it?
I can hear it, but it's not bad.
Oh, okay. It's bad here. But anyway, if we look over history, we'll see that the world has always been aware of what America has been doing. A lot of the world participated in the same activities that happened here in America, as far as i.e. slavery. Even in current day 2021, a lot of the same atrocities that are happening to African Americans are happening to the African diaspora in other places. So we have African Brazilians, that was just on the news just here recently. They sent they raided the Portobellas, is what they call them over there. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Favelas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm bad with Spanish. I got to bring my daughter in here. She speaks both of them. But anyway, they raided those, and they went in and just started shooting and killing people. And, and these are blacks, what I'm saying? They're African Brazilians, from the continent. We know we're spread out everywhere. And so we get treated bad everywhere around the world. You go over to Europe, it's the same thing. We're discriminated against all around the world, so writing to the UN and saying, hey, they doing us bad over here in America. What good is that going to do? What about the rest of our brothers and sisters around the world? And which leads us to Haiti. Okay, this is it leads me in my mind to Haiti. This is one of the reasons why Haiti is a third world country, because they had the gall to stand up, fight for their independence, and win it, and take control of their own destiny. And America has been punishing Haiti ever since. And they still punishing Haiti even right now today. But these are our brothers and sisters, that's over there. And they did what none of the rest of us was capable of doing. They realized the dream that our ancestors died trying to fulfill, but they're suffering the consequence of that. And so if the
why that was, Rem?
Go ahead.
So the reason why they were able to raise up and fight and win is because they punished those that sought meritorious manumissions, right? Mm. So if you tried to snitch, if you tried to help them out, if you tried to do those things, there were consequences for that. Right? Oh yeah. So you weren't allowed to go against your group. And so because here, we assimilated into this individualistic society, right? Our podcast, individual versus collectivism, right? It's like, no, I'm out for me, I'm out for my family, and So, and those meritorious manumissions are why, or the lack therein, the accountability, the punishment. Anyone doing that in Haiti is what allowed Haiti to overcome their oppressors.
Yeah, but I agree with you, and they did do that, and they but unfortunately, Haiti is still paying the penalty. The French, they made Haiti pay reparations for their loss of slaves, and they're still paying. They're still paying right now today. And if the UN won't stand up and do anything about what Europe, and when I say Europe, I include America in that, people. So when I say Europe, think America is just as well. They just as much a part of Europe as anything else, all right? Canada as well. Anyway, so when I say, Europeans, if the UN won't do anything about them, what makes them think they're going to do anything about just a group inside of a European nation when they won't, stand up for a sovereign nation and say, hey, y'all can't, keep, dumping on them this way. So I was quite embarrassed by that. That's my rant. That's my rave. I did not come to behave. So I'm gonna let Brother Moan, I'm gonna let you close us out, and I'm gonna go and help my brother prepare for his wedding.
But you got it. Like I said, I always love these conversations. The one thing about it is I haven't read the letter. When we talk about, strategies, I think that might be maybe a little bit more effective strategy. It may still not lead anywhere, but it does start to put it into the mouths of others, right? And so, who knows what can happen from that? I think the most important thing is kind of what we were saying before, right? We got to start creating our own spaces.
Yes, sir.
Be pushing forward and going with, right? And pulling behind us, the group, as we go into these board meetings, as we go into these local political spaces, as we go and ascend higher up. And as we do that, with enough of us in there, right? And I don't mean just Black folks. I mean all of our folks that are feeling and thinking the same way. Then you're going to start to see change at the Senate, at the at higher levels of government in our institutions, and we may get to the point where now this thing is addressed at the UN and people actually do stand and start to acknowledge, right? And in all honesty, the entire globe owes reparations to Africa.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a lot of accountability that needs to happen there. And so as a long-term strategy, I actually don't think that one is a bad one. But man, I love this. Rev, I'm going to encourage you to watch the podcast that I did yesterday. It's it's like 2.5 hours. So
I will
put that on, because I think that you might pull a topic from that for us to talk about.
Okay.
To check out 2x2 Studies with the Rev. He also has morning devotion every morning. I'm not up that early typically, so you never catch me on that live unless I got like a special meeting or something like that. I'm a late owl. It's funny because Layla, I'm talking to her yesterday. She needed some technical help, so I had to be tech support for Layla. So she calls me on the phone, was like, "Daddy, I want to change my Gmail." So I'm trying to walk her through this thing, and so we're getting ready to get off the phone. She's going to go to bed, and she's like, "All right, Daddy, I don't want you to stay up till 3 a.m. I want you to get some sleep." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, your dad. I said, well, I still got to go on live, but I'll try to get to bed at 1:30. She's like, 1:30? She's like, all right, Daddy, just try to get some sleep. I didn't go to bed at 4:30, but
Hey, you know what? It is so heartwarming when they trying to take care of you. And my youngest daughter did the same thing, kind of the same thing to me today. Because yesterday I was helping my brother-in-law do brakes, which is pretty taxing on my body. And so she knows, like, I'm not like at 100. And she's like, okay, Dad. She's on her way out, for school with. And so she's like, okay, Dad. Don't be working hard today. Make sure you just, rest today. And, so I love it when kids, they start assuming you, and you can see, like, when they get older, like, yeah, they and I love that. I love that. So you tell Layla, I said, keep on staying on you to get rest. Because
Yeah, no,
you know,
man, and it made my night so easy, you know.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I love my little angel.
But see that's because she's you know, she's picking up from dad, like, you know, how to care, you know. And so that's a beautiful thing, man. You know, she's caring about you. Like, yeah, dad, all right, I'm gonna take care of you just like you take care of me. Get some rest, go to sleep.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Out of the mouth of babes, huh?
Amen.
But
Amen.
yeah,
So I'm gonna watch your podcast. I promise you that. I'll listen to it tonight, and yeah, we'll talk about it. Okay.
I couldn't start it till 11 because it's that fire. But just to go.
Okay.
But remember, I don't typically use bad language. I do curse. I just don't curse often. I just think there's too many words in the English dictionary to get your point across.
Indeed.
I will use it for emphasis, or if I am, you know, upset, I may put it out there.
Yeah.
If I don't overuse it, then when I use it, it's like, oh,
It's effective. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes. I get you.
But I am Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit. See you next time. This is Reverend Michael Ellington, 2x2 Studies. Again, check out his devotion in the morning, and also his. How many times do you go per week? 2, 3, 4?
I don't know, bro. I try to get on there as often as I can.
just subscribe, you know, to the channel, and you know, set yourself up for alerts. So whenever either one of us go live, you'll get the latest and greatest. Do comment, because we will come back and address your comments.
Amen.
We'll have you on the show one day.
Amen.
All right.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Until next time, we are out. I am Marwan Cameron. And this is the Conduit. All right, y'all. Welcome back.